right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the ASAP Afternoon Blitz, Monday, February 27th, 2023. I'm Chris Gonzo, joined by Jay McLovin. How's it going, Jay?
It is going well, sir. It is going well. Honestly, I don't know if you guys have caught. I know Dustin has, Gonzo, I'm pretty sure you have, but it blows my mind how they have struggled with the batter's box and that called strike that ended that wild Braves game. Logan, I hope you watched it and loved every minute of it.
I also joined by the stat guy, Dustin Reese. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going well. And Jay, yes, being down here at spring training, I have seen the pitch clock. I have seen the problems, and it is quite entertaining, actually.
8 seconds, you son of a bitch. 8 seconds. 8 seconds. How hard is it? How hard is that to understand? 8 seconds. Jesus. What a bonehead.
There are teams down here right now that are literally spending 20 to 25 minutes a day just practicing the whole pitch clock and standing in the batter's box crap.
Bruh, you know what I'm saying? Damn, 8 seconds. It's a big-ass clock. How do you miss that? The Astros better not do nothing like that. They do that, I'm gonna have issues.
Well, they have 18 seconds right now. They have 18 seconds literally from the time the pitcher receives the pitch to when that is a called strike or whatever. So I don't know how you can't be ready in 18 seconds.
A lot of them like to take their time. They like to think about it. They like to contemplate what the next pitch is going to be. Well, I'm sorry. You ain't had that damn time anymore. Now you get your ass in the box and let's go. Which, by the way, now that a lot of people, baseball is all about superstition and routine. We all know that, man. Now that you're messing with people's routines and people's superstitions, how is that going to affect batting averages this year?
I don't know if it's going to actually affect them that much. I think you're actually going to see batting averages go up a little bit because the shift is gone.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying, just the routine of, sizing things up, playing all the scenarios out when you're in the batter's box. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to dramatically, but you gotta think it has at least some factor, on their preparation and how they approach the plate now from the way they used to do it.
Yeah. And the one stat that I was going to give you guys the other day was in what year was it? The shift became a thing in 2014, I believe, is when the shift became a thing. And from 1998 through 2014, there was a total of 4 teams that hit under a 240 for the year. This past year, 16 teams in baseball hit under 240. And that's because of the shift, and so that's why they wanted to get rid of the shift. They want to see if the batting averages can get back above like that 250, 260 line where they used to be.
I just feel like, I would not be surprised this season if we see some issues with that. And even really so, maybe even with the pitchers in the box and stuff, maybe they, with the way that they're going to be more stringent about the pitching delivery and things like that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some issues with it. It's like everything else. I think this season's going to be a growing curve season. So I wouldn't be surprised one bit, especially with pitchers like Luis Garcia, which is my guy, but he has such a long and awkward delivery. It's going to affect him, I think, to a certain point.
Dustin, since you're down there, has there been more problems than maybe what you expected?
I think Dustin lost him or something, or he's muted and he's talking and doesn't realize he's muted. See, this is what happens when you put Lindsey Scott as your name. This is the kind of service that you get. I'm just saying, man. If you're gonna put Lindsey Scott on there, you should at least be.
He said he had to take a call. Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I bet he is taking a call, probably from Lindsey Scott. No, but I mean, I'm just saying, how crazy. The guy thought, here he is. He's thinking he's got the walk-off walk He takes about 7 or 8 steps only to find out that he struck out and the game is over. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can see that happen in the regular season. People, maybe they're not paying attention. Maybe they get distracted. You know what I'm saying?
What did he do? He walked out of the box early, so they called it a strike.
I think that's what yeah. Well, no, he wasn't. It was an 8-second violation. He wasn't facing and looking. You got to be facing and looking at the pitcher at that 8-second mark, and he wasn't. And so they wound up calling it a strike. Weirdest damn thing. I'm telling you, it's weird. It's gonna be a weird season, guys. I don't care how you cut it.
I mean, like Dad said, we went to a minor league game last year where they were using the pitch clock and stuff, and it wasn't an issue. So
I see that though, but they've had a little bit more time with it. I think Major League Baseball will be fine too. But I wouldn't be surprised if those first, few months, it's going to be working it out. People get used to it.
Some players being dickheads just to be dickheads.
And it could be. I'm just saying. I mean, hey, that's not out of the realm of possibilities, man. I mean, come on.
What do you think about Quinn Snyder getting the Hawks job, which I think everybody figured that was going to happen, but it happened awful damn quick. Fire your coach on a Tuesday, and by Monday you already have a new one.
And it really kind of put Prunty in a really weird spot because they named him interim only to, I guess at this point, remove the interim and just give it basically straight to Quinn Snyder. I don't know why even, yeah. I'm okay. Look, man, when you look at the head coaches that were available out there on the open market, Quinn Snyder's not a bad grab. I mean, he has had success in the postseason, although not having made it to the finals, but he still has had had success in the season.
He's not a bad coach.
It's going to be interesting, though, because honestly, the whole Mitchell and Rudy Gobert thing never quite worked out. They never could get over the hump. And I don't know that he can get this team over the hump either. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Trae Young is going to have to go. I'm sure there'll be a growing process with Trae Young and Clint Capella and, things like that. So
if it don't work,
that roster, so
if it don't work with Snyder, you think they move on? They move on from Trae Young?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not even convinced, and I'm not convinced they don't move. I'm not convinced they don't move on with Trae Young, even while Snyder is there. I mean, nothing is set in stone.
Because isn't this like the third coach they've gotten now with Trae Young?
Well, yeah, because there was it'd be Snyder, McMillan. I don't remember who the damn coach was, honestly, before McMillan.
Who it was, but there was no.
I got to be honest, I never gave the Atlanta Hawks that much attention, man. Honestly, before McMillan came there.
Well, my thing is, what's the common denominator?
Oh, man. I mean, it's easy to say Trae Young, but I think there's other things too. I also think that McMillan didn't quite have the pulse of the team, in certain situations. So, I mean, they were kind of rough down there, I think, in defensive efficiency and offensive efficiency. So, in certain areas. So, there's that team definitely has some room to grow. I don't even know if Clint Capella is truly the answer at that center spot either.
I think a lot of it is some of the guys on that team just McMillan can be hard to get along with sometimes. I think because of he's going to make you play defense. So, and that's not something that Trae Young and some of the guys on the Atlanta Hawks team really want to do.
And also, how much do they really get out of Murray coming over from San Antonio? I still don't think they maximized his talent.
Yeah, I don't either. Dustin, I'd ask you, but that was before I realized you was gone. But with you being down there covering some spring training, has there been more problems with the new rules than what you expected?
Honestly, there's been less problems. One thing that I have noticed already in just a couple days that I've been down here is base stealing is way up. And granted, a lot of teams do steal more bases in spring training just because they try a lot of different things out that they don't do during the regular season. But you're getting a sense already that I think base stealing is going to be up this year because of the bigger bases. It allows base runners a chance to do a lot of those swim moves or a chance to do some of those interesting slides to avoid the tag. And with a bigger base, they have more of an opportunity to get to that base. So I do think stealing is going to be up a lot this year as opposed to the last 5-6 years. The shifting, I mean, you really haven't seen, even with the modified shift, because you can still technically shift as long as you have 2 players on each side of the base and as long as everybody's on that is on the infield dirt. You really haven't seen too many teams kind of do things like that. They're just kind of playing straight up infield defense and just playing it as is right now. But the toughest rule that everyone is adjusting to right now is that pitch clock. And a lot of it more so, surprisingly, I thought the pitchers would have a tougher time dealing with it, especially guys like Max Scherzer and Yu Darvish, like guys who historically take like 30 seconds between pitches because they like to kind of take a deep breath and like refocus before they throw. But it's the hitters right now that are having the biggest difficulty with the pitch clock. I'm honestly surprised about that.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of it has to do with routines. I think sometimes batters are used to longer routines in between pitches to get their thoughts, and now they don't have as much time. You know, at 18 seconds seems like a lot, but if you're thinking or doing stuff, I mean, you really don't even have like 10 seconds to get down to the 8 seconds. You got to be in the box looking at the pitcher ready to go. So,
but yeah, if you look at the guys like Max Scherzer, though, how many hitters ask for time because Max Scherzer takes so long? A lot of hitters are ready to go within like that 15, 16-second window. It's the pitchers that tend to take longer. And now it just is the opposite. It's like the hitters are like, well, I don't want to be sped up, even though it's like you're not really being sped up. You've been on this internal clock your entire career where you're the ones that are ready to go at that 15, 16-second mark and waiting on the pitcher. So I don't get why there's a difference now just because there's a pitch clock in place.
And that's what I was kind of getting at. I think it's going to take MLB as a whole, pitchers and hitters, the whole nine. I think it takes them, a couple of weeks, maybe even a month or so to really get their timing down because of the sped up game, because of the certain benchmarks you have to meet now to, or it's considered a balk or a strike or whatever. So I do think there's going to be some timing issues just for a little bit while everybody gets used to this new system.
I agree, and I don't like the 18 seconds either. I think it should be, in my opinion, 25 seconds.
Right.
Just because, 18 seconds, you're speeding things up where I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a chance for pitchers maybe to get injured more because they have to speed things up a little bit, and they might kind of alter their delivery a little bit to speed things up, and that could cause injuries. Same things with the batter, where if they're trying to get time and they're not being granted time, you're going to have issues with arguments at home plate. You're going to have a bunch of issues between managers and umpires, like, why aren't you granting my guy time when he called time within a specific window of that 18-second time clock? If you go to 25 seconds, there should be no excuse why the pitcher or the hitter's not ready in 25 seconds. And 9 out of 10 times, a pitch will be thrown under 20 seconds, in my opinion. Even without a pitch clock, very seldom did really pitchers stand and hold that ball more than 20 seconds.
I'm also kind of torn, though. I know you were saying earlier that you thought having the bigger bases would help with stealing bases, but I don't think 8 inches – there are some sporting events that 8 inches is a lot, but in this particular instance, I don't think that 8 inches is going to lead to dramatic stealing of bases. I don't. I think if anything, the bigger bases are going to make it easier for the fielders to field the ball cleanly rather than getting slammed into by the runner with the smaller bases. I look at the bases as more of a safety issue really than a help for the stealing of bases. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think base stealing is going to just take this huge jump because they made 8 inches more of base.
It primarily was brought into play because of the safety issue, especially those plays at second base where the shortstop is kind of sliding his foot across the base to just touch the base to make a double play, and then you have these base runners sliding with their feet way out where they're trying to take out the shortstop so he can't make the throw. And the old rule was, as long as you're within an arm's distance of that base, it's considered a clean play. But then you were kind of crossing that fine line. What is considered an arm's distance? Because everybody has different length arms. So, one guy could be 6 inches away from the base, another guy could be 13 inches away from the base. But if he can still touch it, it's still considered a clean play. That's why I think the main reason was they went to these bigger bases, because now 8-inch bigger base, you should have no excuse why, even if you're trying to break up a double play, that you can't hit that base. And if you're far enough away where you can't hit that base, then you're so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, and I also like the fact that, hey, look, a pitcher ain't got but 2 times to try to get that dude out. And if he on that third, if he don't get him, it's a balk. I love that. I love that. I think that also speeds up the game. I think too many times they'll sit there for a hot minute trying to get this dude out. And I'm like, come on, man,
Yeah.
let's get on.
And the one rule that people still complain about, which I was so happy when they brought it into play last year, is the 3 batter minimum for a relief pitcher, where a manager can't have a lefty face a lefty and then take a guy out and do a righty versus a righty, and then take a guy out and do a lefty versus a lefty. I'm sorry, but you're a major league reliever. If you can't face 3 hitters, whether it's 3 lefties, 3 righties, or a mix of each, you don't deserve to be pitching in the major leagues.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely probably one of the better rules. I'm glad you brought that up because I actually kind of forgotten about that, but that's a good point. The fact that when the pitcher comes in, he has to do a minimum of 3 before they can take him out. I think that's huge. That's another big time advantage over that. So yeah,
you saw so many managers always do like, oh, a left-handed hitter is coming up, so I'm going to take out my pitcher and bring in a righty. But then the other manager would be like, fine, you want to bring in a righty, I'll bring in a left-handed hitter. Now you really can't do that because the batter's got to face 3 hitters anyway, so it doesn't matter like who you bring up to plate. They still got to face that same pitcher.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I am so – I don't know about you guys, man, but I mean there's so many things – between last season and this season, it's different. It makes for this to be a pretty exciting season with all the rule changes, all the free agent maneuvering. I mean, this is going to be a hell of a good season, man, honestly. And again, when the Astros win the pennant, it's just going to make it so beautiful.
Where did Chris go?
I don't know. Chris.
He's muted. I see that.
Hey, do you want to say something beautiful, though? No, not that. Oh, you son of a bitch. You took my thing out. God, I was messing with my thing. I don't know why they put Mike Hughes in there. Not that Mike Hughes is an ugly person. He's a beautiful person.
That is pissing me.
Look at this. Gonzo, you want to see something beautiful? Let me show you something beautiful, Gonzo. You ready to see it? Oh, God, it's so gorgeous. It's like a beacon of light.
Worst team
beacon of light.
Worst team in the league?
Hey, listen, I'm not mad at you for hating. Everybody's going to hate to a certain degree. I get it, man. I get it. We can't all be like the Cubs and the Reds. That is your team, right, Dustin? You're a Cubs guy, right, Dustin?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually watching the Mets and the Cardinals right now on ESPN.
Yeah, that's the game I'm watching as well. Oh, man.
Probably get some other ones.
Hey, real quick.
ESPN
The rule changes as of right now. When do we see the electronic umps in the league? That's got to be the next thing coming.
I think you'll see it maybe not next year, by 2025, because AAA, I believe, is doing it. Or maybe not AAA. Somebody in the minor leagues is doing it. I don't know if it's AAA or I don't know if it's the lower level minors. But
well, the AAA, they're actually separated. They got half of the AAA on the electronic ump, and then they got the other half of the AAA on some kind of new system.
Yeah, I think it's A-ball and AA this year that are doing the fully electronic umpires this year. And then I think if it goes well, then you'll see all of minor league baseball use it next year. And then when we get to 2025, I think you'll start seeing it come into the majors. I just don't know if it'll be fully in the majors by 2025 or it'll be a thing where you still have like a home plate umpire, but there's like a radio or something inside the umpire's head to tell the umpire if it was a strike or a ball. So you'll still have like the human element of it, but the home plate umpire will technically not be calling balls and strikes on his own. He'll wait for the radio call in his headset saying that's a ball, that's a strike, and he'll call it that way.
That makes sense because it seems like that would make sense because somebody still has to be at the plate to say whether or not the batter's safe or
exactly.
Out. I mean, you still have to make the calls, but they're going to use electronic surveillance to relay.
Yeah, because you have on TV when you're watching the game, you have the strike zone box. So all you really need is for somebody to be sitting at the stadium, whether it's in the dugout or whether it's in the clubhouse or in the press box, watching the game on one of those strike zone boxes. And then once that pitch goes into home plate, it shows where that ball is located in the box. All you really need is to have one guy radio down and be like, that's a strike, that's a ball. And the umpire can call it that way. Because if you go with a fully electronic ump, you still need an umpire to call out or safe at home plate.
That's what I'm saying. I still
think you need an umpire to make calls, so you still need an umpire on the field for all cases anyways.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be the same way.
You think they're –
it's just now you're just taking the ability to call strikes and balls out of the ump's hands, but he's still relaying what's being called.
You think they're having trouble getting used to these rules? When they roll that out and they try to roll that out in the MLB, I think you're going to see a lot of problems, especially at first.
Yeah, I think like everything, there's going to be issues.
I don't know if you actually will, though, because you look at that pitch comm thing that the catchers got last year. I think the umpires will have a similar thing like that pitch comm where they'll have like that signal relayed to them, whether it's a ball or a strike, like maybe 2 beeps is a ball and 1 beep's a strike or whatever. But I think the umpires are going to make it known like before the season starts, or Major League Baseball is going to make it known before the season starts, and they're going to basically say, we're going with an electronic approach this year. We're still going to have a home plate umpire, but that home plate umpire is not going to be calling balls and strikes. He's going to be giving you the call that we relay to him, so you can't argue it because it's the call that we're giving him. So if they want to try to argue it, they can, but it's not going to get them anywhere because the home plate umpire is really not the one making the ball or strike call.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Especially if the managers know like they're going off of like that K zone box or whatever. If managers are made known that they're going to be using like a K zone box or some sort of a box, you could technically put some sort of like a video screen in the dugout so the managers know exactly where that pitch is before the umpire makes the call. So if they want to try to argue it, all they got to do is look at the screen and be like, oh, okay, I guess that is a strike, or oh, okay, I guess that is a ball.
Then they're going to have to calibrate all these machines and make sure all these machines are calibrated. I mean, there could be some issues with that, but I think Major League Baseball, by the time they get to the Major League Baseball level with it, at the minor leagues, they would have already worked all that out. So that probably won't be an issue. But wow, everything is still electronic, so I still think you've got to have a human element down there in case it goes left or right. What a time, man! What a time. Oh man, tag or not to tag. So did you see now where it looks like the Bucks are being sold to the Haslams? Now Cleveland royalty from the Browns are going to be sneaking their hands into the pockets of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, I'd seen something about that.
If I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't want that Haslam anywhere near my team. I mean, he did so well in Cleveland as an owner.
And that's kind of what I'm wondering. How the Bucks have been doing so well under present ownership, and then you get the Browns ownership, which we obviously know their track record. How is that going to affect the Bucks going forward, the way they do their business, and who they keep and who they bring in, and how they transform that roster from where it's at, or if they decide to keep it, or what have you?
How big of a piece is he buying into? Is he buying enough?
$3.5 billion. Hey, watch this, Gonzo. About $3.5 billion. I'd say probably he would be the majority stake owner.
I think he's getting 60% or 70%. He's taking the
majority stake owner. It'll be his team regardless. He'll be making the calls. What a time. What a time.
Maybe he'll fare a little better in basketball than he has in football.
You said what?
So maybe he'll fare a little bit better in basketball than he has in football.
I highly doubt it.
And the crazy thing is, I mean, the Bucks are doing so well. Even without Giannis being there for a couple of games with that wrist issue, I mean, these guys are still on a 14-game winning streak. I mean, they're playing well. They're playing well, even with Giannis being out. So I mean, they're only a half game back of the Celtics right now. I mean, we could very well be talking them being the number one team in the league, in a couple of games if things keep going the way they're going for them.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a pretty good team. One thing about Damian Lillard going off for 71 last night.
Jesus, man. It makes me think that a 100-point game is always never going to be broken. 71, 80. I think the closest one was, 80? And I think that was put up by Kobe.
84, I think he had, yeah.
Yeah. 71 is a lot of damn points, man. Jesus, that is a lot of damn points.
13-3.
God. Yeah, he was just feeling it, man, wasn't he? Jeez. Who are they playing?
I have to look. I didn't see
Orlando
much.
Magic. Jesus. Yeah. Orlando. Damn.
I saw some of the highlights, but I didn't see much of the game. I got home last night. I watched some of the XFL as I was setting the getting the all the equipment set back up.
Yeah, I just caught it in my news feed when I woke up this morning. And it said Damian Lillard goes off for 71, and I'm just like, oh man, what a time to be alive, man. But Damian Dollar, man, he has that ability. I mean, the guy can shoot the damn ball. No doubt about it, man. I mean, honestly.
Mike, you said they played the Rockets, Jay.
No, they did not. They played Orlando.
I think Mike's right.
I'm looking because
I thought it was Orlando that they played. Okay, well, if it's the Rockets,
they played the Rockets last night.
Hey, even if it was the Rockets, man, it's the Rockets. Okay, we are rebuilding. Damn it, leave me alone. Drop. Yeah, you know what? Then that's fine. You're still not going to make the playoffs in Chicago, so nobody gives a damn. Mike Hughes. Yes.
Yeah, they beat the Rockets by 16 points.
I mean, come on. We're going for Victor Wembanyama. I got bigger things to fry right now, Mike. Okay, I got bigger things to fry right now. You just sit there with the Chicago Bulls, and you just sit there and look pretty as they stay out of the playoffs, and Golden State as well.
Did you hey, we got NFL combine coming up.
Yes, we did. Was it March 2nd, I believe it is?
Yeah, it's weekend. Or actually until the end of this week, second half of the week. Do you so as we get closer to the draft, of course, we'll start seeing more trades, but this is where a lot of the trade talks and stuff really begin, as you get a lot of these scouts and GMs and everybody together all in Indy for a week.
Fucking Mike, man. Mike says we get victory break. You know what? That's okay. Hey, listen, man. If that's how you feel, I hope Lonzo Ball comes back with the perfect bill of health, and Vucevic loses all of his toes due to like freaking diabetes, and he's walking around on nubs.
You guys have lost your minds.
No, I'm sorry, Gonzo. Before we got really interrupted by Mike's comment, what you were saying something, I apologize.
No, I was saying that this week is where a lot of the trades and some of the free agency moves actually start with the combine, because you get all the GMs and scouts and some of the owners and everybody all together in the same city.
Yeah, Bryce Young said he's not going to throw. What do you make of Bryce Young not throwing at the combine? Is that an issue? I mean, you would think he'd want to showcase his talent, but why is he feeling like he doesn't want to throw?
Because I think him and his agent feel like right now he's the number one pick. So why take a chance and do something to maybe mess that up? You go out there and you throw, and you have a day where you're not at the top of your game. Excuse me. I mean, that'd be the only reason I'm saying is that they think his draft stock is as high as it's going to get, and they don't want to.
I do think that is part of it, but the more I look at it too, less and less players care about the combine now, and they care more about the pro day. Because when you go to the combine, you're basically just doing basic throws that NFL scouts want to see you make. You're not doing it with your teammates. You're not doing it with people you're going to play with in the draft. So you could go out and your combine stock could be horrible because the people you're throwing to can't catch the ball, or the people you're throwing to aren't going to the right spots when you're throwing it. Versus a pro day, you control your own workout. You control the throws you want to make. You control the plays that you want to do. And I think scouts actually care more about a pro day because it's not a predetermined workout. It's a workout that you do on your campus with whoever you want to throw to. And it's your offensive coordinator calling specific plays, not just going into Indianapolis being like, we want you to run a post, we want you to throw this, we want you to throw this. You show those scouts exactly the throws you can make at the pro day.
Yeah.
So I do think that Bryce Young will throw at the pro day. I just don't see it. I think Bryce Young will do everything but throw at the pro day. And then when we get to the pro day, then I could see him kind of going out and doing his throwing stuff.
Shit, I got to be honest. If I'm Bryce Young, I ain't doing a damn thing. Hey, look, you saw all the things you want to see. Take me. I don't know. I mean, man, it's almost kind of like call your bluff, you know? Yeah, that's either way, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what some of these offensive linemen do at the combine, man. Because I'm telling you, man, I know my team needs an offensive lineman. I don't know. We're not taking the first round, but I definitely know the second round we got to be taking offensive linemen.
Yeah. You never know. Now I'm hearing rumors that I mean, you never know because teams will change what they're going to do. I mean,
yeah, they do it. They do have Dallas taking an offensive line at pick 26. So
I'm telling you, that's one of our biggest needs.
Right now, it looks like the Colts are going to take Bryce Young. I'm kind of hoping I'd rather have not so.
Yeah, they have the Cowboys taking that offensive tackle Paris Johnson out of Ohio State at number 26.
Yeah, that was the two guys I was eyeing for. The guy out of Northwestern and the guy out of Ohio. Those were the two I was hoping. Maybe Dallas might get one of those guys. It would be great.
And then the other one they said if Paris Johnson's off the board would be Joey Porter Jr., the cornerback out of Penn State.
I mean, we do need another lockdown corner opposite of Diggs, especially with Brown going down with that injury. So, I mean that I would say wherever they're at, take best available. Hopefully that, in my opinion, I'm still hoping it's offensive line. But if it is Joey Porter Jr., then that's fine as well. And then too, I still think the Cowboys got to resolve that running back situation financially. They've got to resolve it to get under the cap. So is Zeke going to take the pay cut? And if he doesn't, are we going to release him? If we release him, we got Pollard franchise tag, but he can't come back. I mean, there's some questions there at running back for the Cowboys as well. Now, I will say this. There are some options available, I think, in free agency at running back. Hopefully, maybe we can squander into.
They do have the Cowboys taking a running back in round 2.
In round 2, they do?
Yeah, that Jamar Gibbs out of Alabama.
Oh, shit.
Or Jameer Gibbs, however you pronounce his name.
You think he lasts to the second round?
I do, because the first round you're going to have, obviously, quarterbacks. You're going to have offensive tackles because this draft is very deep when it comes to like offensive tackle and offensive linemen. And then the other position that nobody talks about that's extremely deep is defensive tackle. There's legitimately a chance that 7 to 8 defensive tackles can get taken in the first round. And then you obviously have your wide receivers like Jordan Addison, Rashee Rice, and a couple other guys that are first-round options. So even if that guy is a first-round talent out of Alabama, I could see him falling to the second round just because when you look at who's picking in the first round, not many of those teams need a running back. And the ones that do...
it would be hard for them to get him in the second because Dallas will be drafting pretty far down in the second.
I could see them trading up in the second round, though.
Well, they did that. Okay, you're right. They could do that. For them to get Gibbs, they'd have to trade up.
Yeah. I just don't see any running backs going in the first round, and if one does, it's going to be such a reach. It's going to have to come like between pick like 25 and 31 because if anyone takes a running back inside the top 25, it's going to have to be like a Derrick Henry type running back, and there's no running back in this draft to be found like that.
And the running back position has been so devalued in the NFL. It wouldn't surprise me if there's not one. If there is one, it's going to be like Dustin said, I think late in the first round. But I would say early in the second rounds when you're going to start seeing them running backs drop off the board.
That's interesting. And the Bears, I've seen where they were talking about the Bears leaning towards getting rid of that number 1.
I'm telling you right now, the team that the Bears should be trading with is Houston, even though Houston won't do it because Houston picks number 2 and they pick number 12. The Bears could essentially get pick number 2 and pick number 12 if they trade with Houston.
True. And then Mike Hughes talks about Robinson going to Miami. I can see Miami taking Robinson. I don't think they're sold on Mostert or anybody else that they have there. So.
Oh, I do. I think they're 100% sold on both Mostert and Jeff Wilson because Mike McDaniel was the offensive coordinator in San Francisco. He worked with both Mostert and Jeff Wilson when he was in San Francisco. There's a reason why he signed Mostert in the offseason, and there's a reason why he traded for Wilson.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I mean, I believe Mostert's a free agent this year, so I could see them not retaining Mostert just because who knows what he's going to be asking in free agency. But Jeff Wilson still has, I think, 1 or 2 years left on his contract, so he'll still be in Miami next year. And then if they bring Mostert back, they do. But otherwise, I could see them going to get a running back. But you don't trade for a guy like Jeff Wilson if you don't believe in him just because Wilson has always been a system running back. He's never been that go-to running back. He's always been part of a 2 or 3-headed monster like he was in San Francisco the year they went to the Super Bowl with him. And they brought him to San Francisco, and it was basically the same thing. You had Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. splitting carries. So if they are going to stick with Wilson, they believe in him enough, but they still need him to get some help outside of that.
Yeah. Damn, what a time to be alive. Time to be alive, man. Wow. So what do you make of Golden State right now? They're pushing towards the end of the play-in right now. And you got the Lakers on a pretty good little rise coming up. Where do you see that falling in?
It all depends on Curry.
I think it depends on when Curry gets back, and if they need Peyton. I think Peyton to get back and be healthy as well to help that defense. But yeah, the key's going to be is getting Steph Curry back and getting in a rhythm.
And that's been the thing with Golden State the last several years. As bad as it is to say, when they have players hurt, whether it's Klay Thompson, whether it's Stephen Curry, whether it's any one of their core 4 that they've had for like the last 9-10 years, they're given a free pass to do bad. And you saw it the year that they drafted James Wiseman number 2. They knew they weren't going to have Thompson for the year. They knew they weren't going to have Curry for like 5 or 6 months. So they pretty much banked it in like, well, we have a free year to struggle, and that allows us to get a number 2 pick, and then we can kind of rebuild ourselves for 1 year and then get back to doing what we do. And that's exactly what they did. They picked number 2. They ended up rebuilding super quick, and they ended up winning the title the next year. And this year it's kind of a similar situation. They're hovering right around the playoffs right now. They're not. I believe they're the 10 seed right now or the 9 seed right now. They might even be on the outside looking in. But it's not like they're 5 or 6 games out. They're only 1 game out of the playoff hunt right now if they are out. And all they have to do is stay right on that line. And if they get Curry back, even if they get Curry back for 15 games, you go 11-4 in those 15 games, you're probably getting in. And you might even be able to move up to like the 6 or 7 seed at that point.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Golden State's at 31-30 at the 7th spot. Yeah. Lakers are at 29-32 at the 12th spot. However, Phoenix at the 4th spot is 33-29. So literally there is only 3.5 difference.
That West is bunched up.
Spot and the 4th spot. So in theory, the Lakers could still get the damn 4th spot if they continue the direction they're traveling.
Yeah, that Western Conference is all bunched up there from like 4 to 10. Like you said, they should have took LaMelo instead of Wiseman.
Hey, you know what they say? That shoulda, coulda, woulda kicks you in the balls, especially when you're Portland and you take a guy like Sam Bowie when you could have had Michael freaking Jordan. How you like them nuts for size?
It happens.
Yeah, man, bro. I'm telling you, it definitely happens.
I mean, just look at it was just like in the NFL with the Bears took Trubisky and could have had Mahomes. I mean,
I'll tell you,
all sports.
Killing themselves over that.
I don't necessarily know if they are though, because everyone can sit here and say the Bears could have had Mahomes over Trubisky. But even if the Bears do draft Patrick Mahomes, the Bears don't have Travis Kelce. The Bears didn't have Tyreek Hill. The Bears didn't have the same weapons that Kansas City had when Patrick Mahomes was there. So who's to say that Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be an average quarterback at best in Chicago because they don't have the same weapons? They don't have the Andy Reid play calling. They don't have any of that Kansas City has.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know if he'd be the same player or not, but I think he'd have been better than Trubisky. But yeah, he might not have been the same player because of the weapons. You got to have weapons around you. We've seen it with other teams.
I mean, at this point, who do you think is the best? I mean, I know obviously Utah has the best record, but is Utah realistically, do they have the best chance at making the finals?
No. I think the best chance at this point is still Phoenix. Just because of Kevin.
They haven't without Durant yet, so we still have yet to see Durant make his debut.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, if Durant plays, even if he plays at 90%, you still have Devin Booker, you still have Chris Paul, you still have DeAndre Ayton. That's a pretty lethal foursome that not too many teams in the Western Conference can deal with. And we've seen what Kevin Durant does in the playoffs. We've seen what Devin Booker does in the playoffs. Chris Paul, on the other hand, kind of disappears in the playoffs. But with a guy like Durant to kind of help him out now, more so than just Booker, you're not going to need Chris Paul to step up as much as he normally does. All you need from Chris Paul in the playoffs is to give you 15 points, 8 or 9 assists, and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant can do the rest for you.
I mean, Durant's going to slide in easy. He doesn't require being a leader. He doesn't require anything other than just get him the ball, get him his touches, and he's fine. And if you get a guy like that, he's going to slide in with no issues. No issues. And these guys are, they've been around each other for a minute, so it's not like they don't know each other.
Yeah. And they were talking, isn't he going to get on the court maybe this week?
Yeah, he played, what was it, Friday? He practiced Friday of last week. They thought he might make it, but they wound up pulling him out. So hopefully maybe we get him this week. Maybe this week he'll make an appearance.
Yeah, I think it's either going to be. I'm going to say Denver, Phoenix come out of the West, but then either Boston or the Bucks come out of the East. I like the way that Boston team, man. I think they're going to be tough for anybody to beat in a 7-game series in the East.
I like Boston too, but I just think the momentum right now.
If Giannis is healthy, you can't count the Bucks out.
I mean, the Bucks, like I said, the momentum they're riding with right now is just ridiculous. I mean, we're at 14 games. I mean, shit. 14 games, you got like what, maybe 20 left?
Yeah. I mean, the Bucks have all that momentum, but my big thing with Milwaukee is who helps Giannis in the playoffs?
What do you mean? You mean in terms of on the team, who helps him?
Yeah, because we've seen it last year too. Even yes, Chris Middleton got hurt, which that was a huge blow to the Bucks last year, but we even saw it the year that Milwaukee won the title. It was pretty much Giannis and nobody else up until the NBA Finals, and then he finally started to get production from Brook Lopez and Jrue Holiday and whatnot. The Bucks have all that momentum now, and I agree they're the hottest team in the NBA right now. But if Giannis doesn't get consistent help in the playoffs, whether that comes from Brook Lopez, whether that comes from Jrue Holiday or Chris Middleton or any one of the players that sees significant minutes, I still don't think the Bucks can beat Boston. Because Boston has consistently 3 or 4 guys every night that are going to contribute on a nightly basis. You know what you're going to get out of Giannis, but outside of that, who can you count on for a 7-game series that can consistently put up the same numbers night in and night out?
Yeah, I get that. I'm just never really 100% sold on Chicago. I mean, not Chicago, Boston. I don't know, man. Last year they looked pretty good. They wound up not getting the job done. But I understand your viewpoint as well. I mean, they are on a 3-game win streak right now, their own selves. So
And you look at the year the Bucks won the NBA title too. Look at what Kevin Durant did when they played Milwaukee in that second round. Kevin Durant single-handedly kept Brooklyn in that series because James Harden was out that entire series with a hamstring injury. Kyrie Irving only played like 2 games. And he single-handedly nearly defeated the Bucks on his own. If his foot was another 2 inches to the left, that's a 3-pointer instead of a 2-pointer, and Brooklyn wins that series by 1 point as opposed to going into overtime and then losing in overtime. So even when Milwaukee won the NBA championship, the Bucks still were not that great in the playoffs because Giannis never got the consistent help that he needed. The Bucks literally almost lost single-handedly to one player that put a team on his back and said, I'm going to score 40 points a game the rest of this series. Just ride with me, and I will try to carry you all the way. And that's the big thing. That's the big thing with the Bucks. Like, Giannis can go and score 40, 50 points, whatever he wants, because he was doing that against Brooklyn the year that they won the NBA title. But with Durant doing what he did on his own, I think that kind of also exposed the Bucks too, because you look at Boston last year, you had guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown who were going to give you 25 to 30 points per game. And then all Boston pretty much needed was to get 15 points from Horford, 10 to 15 points from Marcus Smart, and that basically was enough to make up for the production that the Bucks didn't have.
Well, we know that they have split the series, right? The Bucks and the Celtics, they've split the series with the most recent one going in favor of the Bucks to get the win. They got to play them one more time before the end of the season, so we'll see who nabs that. But again, I'm a very big believer in momentum going into the playoffs, and if the Bucks can continue this momentum, and if they pick up that win against Boston going into the playoffs, that momentum is a hell of a good thing. It's a hell of a drug,
And another team that's been playing well is the 76ers. I don't trust them with Doc Rivers to make them run all the way to and Embiid to make a run all the way through the playoffs. One, because Embiid stay healthy. But,
that's exactly 100%.
They are. I mean, if you look, they have been playing some good basketball, and
right.
They're 4-1 over their last 5 games. So I mean, they're a team you have to watch in the East, but I just don't think it Sixers or the Bucks in a 7-game series can match up well enough with the Celtics. I kind of agree with Dustin. I think you have to watch out for the Bucks because if Giannis can get hot enough, he can carry him, but he just hasn't had that consistent help. And Middleton hasn't been able to stay healthy.
It seems like, what you just said too.
We say that, but at the same time, they just beat Phoenix yesterday, and they didn't have Giannis there either. They beat him. I mean, I'm saying this like, I understand your point, but Jrue Holiday, he's playing his game. Jay Crowder's playing his part. I think he does have help. I think he does. I think
he does. Yeah, he does have help. But the biggest thing to me is Middleton averages almost 24 points per game during the regular season, but he averages around 16 points per game in the playoffs. Jrue Holiday averages around 22, 23 points per game during the regular season and averages around 15 points per game in the playoffs. So what the help that he gets during the regular season doesn't translate to the postseason because the guys that are giving him that help don't play nearly as well in the postseason.
Well, I think in the postseason you get these teams that decide, well, let Giannis get what he gets, but we're not going to let none of these other guys beat us.
Yep, and that's kind of the thing too is teams really don't care how many points that Giannis gets against them in the playoffs because ultimately, yes, his free throw shooting has improved greatly, but that is still Giannis's biggest problem. And if it gets down to it where you're going to let Giannis pretty much beat you on his own and take everybody else away, teams will just follow Giannis and make him beat you from the free throw line.
Well, especially this season right now with that right wrist injury
Yeah.
bothering me a little bit. They're going to take that chance on them free throws.
Exactly. They will literally foul Giannis every chance they get and basically say, you want to beat us, you beat us from the free throw line, and we're going to force the other 10, 12 guys that you put on the court to beat us because you can go and get 50, 60 points. But if you're only going to get 40, 50 points from the rest of your team, that's not going to bode well for you in terms of beating us.
Yeah.
Frankie says the Lakers.
Well, that's what Frankie wants.
I know they made a big comeback win yesterday against the Mavs. Lakers are back in the game. I didn't even know they were getting killed. We was at a wrestling show. We was just heading home. And he was checking scores, but I saw a lot of these Laker fans that were cussing and yelling and wanting Ham fired and all this. And then about 20 minutes later, when the game flipped, Ham's the greatest coach in the world.
Oh, you know how that goes. Hey, winning cures all, Gonzo. Winning cures everything. I don't care what your issues are. Once you start winning, it cures everything. But go back to losing again and see what happens.
It was funny. 20 minutes later, Ham was the best coach in the NBA. And it was like, well,
Best
20 minutes ago, you guys all won them out.
He said that's just Jonathan.
He was one of us all, but there was others.
Wow. Yeah. I think the biggest problem for me with the Sixers, though, honestly, is their bench. I don't think their bench is deep enough to compete with the likes of the Celtics or the Bucks. You know, for me, it's a bench issue, but it's also, to what Gonzo said, it's an Embiid issue. Can he stay healthy, and can their bench produce?
Did you just say that the Sixers' biggest issue is their bench?
I said one of their biggest issues is their bench, yes.
The biggest issue is Doc Rivers.
That's what
the biggest issue is Doc
Rivers.
Rivers
Is the second biggest issue, but you have to put Doc Rivers at number one.
What has Doc Rivers done since he's left Boston in the playoffs? No matter how good his team is.
Hey, listen, I'm not here to talk about Doc Rivers. I'm not a Doc Rivers fan. I mean, he had a good run out there with that one Kevin Garnett led Celtics, but I mean, hell, that team was so damn star-studded. Anybody could have probably won with that damn team, man. Shit. So I get it, man. You know, he didn't do nothing with the Clippers. He still has really not done anything with the Sixers, but he makes them competitive, but that's about the extent of it. He makes them competitive. I'll give him that. I will give him that.
The biggest issue in the playoffs is Harden.
Yeah. If it's typical James Harden, yes, because James Harden has had a track record of disappearing in the playoffs, but this is a different James Harden, so I guess I'll have to actually see him if he gets deeper in the playoffs to see if that's actually true or not still. Oh, yeah, I think the Kings are a serious team. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they have enough to win it all or to make it out of the West, but I think they're going to win a playoff series and move on to the next round, and then you never know what's going to happen. I don't think it's
if Dallas could get past Phoenix and make it into the Western Conference Finals when everybody had everything against them, who's to say the Kings can't do it too? Anybody can do it if you have momentum, chemistry, cohesiveness, good game planning. I mean, anybody can do it if everything lines up. I mean, they're still the NBA freaking A, man. Look, these guys are still professional athletes.
Yeah, Damon. I don't think it's a lucky season. I think they put together a pretty good team over there. I think they still might need another piece, but no, I like what they put together there. And Sabonis is playing at a real high level since he's gotten over there. So he's going. I think they're going to be a team that's going to be a tough out in the playoffs.
I think it all depends on who they play in that first round too, because you have chemistry like Jay was talking about, you have game planning, you have skill, but the one thing that the Kings don't have is playoff experience. They have the longest playoff drought in the NBA. Not only do they have the longest playoff drought in the NBA, but they have the longest
playoff drought in professional sports. Now that Seattle made the postseason last year.
Yep.
So that is going to be, I think, bigger than the whole chemistry issue, bigger than the whole game planning and things like that. Without that playoff experience and going against all these teams in the Western Conference that outside of maybe the New Orleans Pelicans have consistently been in the postseason for the last decade, it's going to be hard for them to overcome that zero playoff experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. A lot of it. I mean, with all the teams, a lot of it's going to depend on who you match up with.
Because the Kings are the Kings the 3 seed right now?
Yes, they are.
And who's the 6 seed right now? I believe it's
Golden State is at 7, so I think it's it's not maybe it's Dallas.
Because if Dallas is the 6 seed, I'm not picking the Kings to beat Dallas.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to look. Yeah, Frankie said Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas is 6 and Golden State is 7.
Yeah, so if the Kings end up getting Dallas or Golden State, I'm not picking the Kings to beat either one of them.
It's funny because there's only a half game separation between Dallas and Golden State and Clippers. It's crazy. It's so crazy. So everything's so tightly congested, and those damn standings can change every other day.
Oh yeah, they're going to change quite a bit between now and the end of the season. And it might end up coming back to the way it is now, but you're going to see teams flip flopping back and forth with so many teams so close to each other.
You know what's not going to change? The fact that Chicago is in the 11th side. That's not going to change, Mike Hughes.
Hey, it might change because if they win tonight against Toronto,
Hey. Calm down. Let me have one, okay? Let me get one every now and then, okay? Just one.
I'll give you your one that the Houston Roughnecks are 8-0 since the XFL came back.
Damn right. Say it with your chest.
I thought they were going to lose that game the other night, but they was able to shore up their turnovers there in the second half a little bit and get the win. Have you watched any of it, Jay? I know Dustin's watched some of the XFL. Have you?
I have not. Every time they play, the wife's got me doing stuff on Sundays and Thursdays. It's killing me right now, so I have not watched it. But I tell you what, man. Hey, listen, I like any team that Wade Phillips put. I told y'all, man, I'm a big Wade Phillips fan. I thought the Cowboys moved on too quickly from Wade. I like the discipline that he brings to teams and things of that nature. So it doesn't surprise me that the Roughnecks are doing as well as they're doing, because Wade, again, is a disciplinarian type coach. And when you have a good disciplined team that knows how to play as a team, those kinds of things don't surprise me.
They have three games this Sunday, Jay. I think one Saturday and 3 on Sunday for this week.
I definitely have got to try to catch a game this week. Last week was rough, but this week I've got to try to catch one.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've watched. I only got to watch one game yesterday. I watched the game Saturday night, but I've watched most. I only missed one game the first week, so I've watched most of the games and I've enjoyed it. I think you're going to keep seeing the scoring go up some as we keep going, but I've enjoyed it. I like all the mics and how you get to hear the play calls. And I love the replay. NFL needs to go to that replay. That replay system is freaking awesome. It takes 30 seconds to go on to the next damn play.
Oh, hell yeah.
And you get to hear the conversation between the referee and the guy in the booth.
That's because Dean Blandino's playing a video game when he looks at the replays.
Yeah, I mean, I love the replay. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of a fan of the 1-2 and the 3-point conversions. It's nice at a 9-point game. You have a 9-point game in the fourth quarter, and it's still you're still at that one possession.
I wonder if the NFL would ever adopt that. I don't think they would. I think they get that's such a dramatic change for the NFL.
I like that, and I kind of like their onside kick thing, where you can choose to do an onside kick anytime, but if you're tied or down, when I think with a certain time limit, you instead of doing an onside kick, you can take the ball at 4th and 15 on your own 25, and you get one play. If you convert it, you convert that 4th and 15. You keep the ball. If not, the defense gets the ball.
Wow, that is such a rough thing to be able to convert, though. A lot of because
but you usually have a higher
on that.
You have a higher percentage of completing a 4th and 15 most times. You do convert recovering an onside kick.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'd probably put it at a better chance of getting 4th and 15 than an onside. I would imagine.
I love the kickoff rule that the XFL does too.
Yeah, I like the kickoff rule, where the guys can't move until the guy touches the ball. They line up 5 yards apart instead of lining up way down the field. They line up like 5 yards apart, and then the kicking team, the guys can't move until the guy returner touches the ball, and then they can all move. Cuts down the high speed collisions.
Wait a minute, I don't like that at all.
I do, because they moved, instead of kicking the ball from the 35, what they do in the NFL, where 98% of your kicks are touchbacks.
Yeah,
they moved it back to the 30, which is where it was forever, and you have the receiving team lines up at the 25, I believe, and the kicking team lines up at the 30. So neither one of those.
That's a much bigger area that they can get more touchdowns, return touchdowns like that.
It's not about necessarily the return touchdowns. It's just getting kick returns back into the game. Because when they moved the kicking up 5 yards, I don't think the NFL realized that they would have as many touchbacks as they did. Because even when the kickoff was from the 30 and you would kick the ball, let's just say 4 or 5 yards deep in the end zone, you would still have guys like Devin Hester and Cordero Patterson and some of those guys take the ball 5 yards deep in the end zone and try to get a touchdown. But you move the kick up 5 yards, all of a sudden that 5 yards deep in the end zone becomes 9 yards deep or completely out of the end zone. So I don't think the NFL took into account that not many guys would return kicks that were in the end zone anyways. There was only a select few that did, and the select few that did now don't even have that opportunity.
Yeah. I also I kind of like the punting rules too, is where if you kick the ball out of bounds, I don't know if it should come all the way back to 35, but I do kind of like they try to promote teams to not kick it out. They try to promote getting like a punt return, not just kicking it out of bounds. And the touchback comes all the way back out to like the 30 on them punts.
I mean, it is good, but it does take away some of the defensive strategies. If per se, let's say you're down and you're trying to get back in the game, those seconds that you're saving could be seconds used elsewhere. So I get it, but at the same time, I don't like it because I think it takes away some of the strategy from the opposite team. And I don't like that whole thing. You can't run until this dude touches the ball. I'm sorry. I like to see people running down I like to see them collision.
Yeah, but
get back to old flag football.
Just trying to cut down on the concussions and injuries.
I don't give a damn. If you don't want concussions, don't play the sport. Go play freaking, I don't know. What other sport is there to play? Try baseball. Try basketball. I don't know what to tell you. But this is a game of violence. And it was founded on a game of violence.
Yeah, I understand that. But you got to look how the NFL's changing, though. It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't go to something like that.
It doesn't surprise me either. If you want to, I can't even say the word I want to use. If you want to get up, then go on ahead, man. Keep putting these. I can't even say that word. Just keep doing what you're doing.
You kind of said it.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna stop watching football. I'm sorry, man. I can't watch flag football. I refuse to watch flag. And I feel like every time you do this, every time you take another thing away from the game, it just turns it into flag football. I'm sorry. When it gets to that level, I'm done.
About every rule they put in is to help the offense. So it's not. I mean, they've been taking stuff away from the defense for years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like we're changing the game for what? Why are we always changing every damn? Come on, man. Make better equipment if that's the case. I don't know what to tell you, but this is not the game I signed up for when I started watching sports.
Where'd you sign up at?
YMCA down on Maxey Road where real men were born. Real American hero.
Jay signed up at that bar that he was at this week, and that's why he can't remember anything.
Hey, you shut your mouth. You don't know what I was doing this weekend? I was chilling, Dustin. Not even in a bar. Well, no, I was. But it was a high-class bar, so shut your mouth.
Evidently, they sold you roofies.
No, not even close.
AP says, do you think Ramsey is worth a first-round pick?
3 years ago.
Not anymore.
And the Rams are going to try to get a first-round pick because they gave everyone their first-round pick for the next decade.
Hey, by the way, St. Louis just tied it up with the Mets 4 apiece. What a time to be alive. Yeah, I'm not giving Ramsey. No. I think to Dustin's point, had it been previous or a while back, maybe, but not now. Not at this stage in the career.
And the Rams are releasing Wagner.
Yeah, didn't they already release him? I thought he got released a couple of days ago, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a mutual parting of ways.
Right.
They wanted him to
take yo, man, this team sucks. Can I please get out of here? And that's the Rams saying, yeah, man, we got a lot of issues.
They wanted him to take a pay cut, and he said no.
That's exactly what they wanted.
And then he said no, and then they're pretty much like, well, we're at the point now where we're probably going to have to rebuild another year. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? And he said, well, I'd rather go somewhere where I have a chance to win. And they're like, okay, fine.
So how long do you think before Stafford's out the door?
I think he's in. Is this the final year of his contract this year?
I got to go look at that. I truthfully don't know. But you got to figure they got Baker there. They got Stafford there. What are they going to do?
I was thinking he had one more year after this year. I'll have to look.
I'm just saying, you got Baker and you got Stafford, and if you're quote unquote talking about rebuilding, what are you gonna? That gives you a lot of things to think about.
Well, I'm looking at his thing right now. Oh, Stafford's not a free agent until 2027.
Oh, so he's got some time on that contract. And Baker's just there he was just there on a 1 year, wasn't he?
Well, here's the key, though. Here's the key.
After next year, there's not as much dead cap, right?
Well, here's the key. Matthew Stafford in 2023 is making $1.5 million in a base salary and $12 million in a signing bonus. As soon as 2024 flips, he makes $31 million in his base salary.
Ugh.
So he's only getting paid $1.5 million in a base salary this year, and then all of a sudden that goes to $31 million in 2024. He's out the door after 2023.
Oh, you gotta imagine.
Because that's when that new extension starts, right?
Yeah, because it'll be $31 million in 2024, $27 million in 2025, and $26 million in 2026. And then he has no dead cap money until 2025, but the dead cap in 2025 is $5 million, and then the dead cap in 2026 is $15 million.
Woo-wee!
So he's pretty much out the door after 2023.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think he's got one more year. That's it. And I don't even know what one more. Well, again, probably for cap reasons, but Jesus, man, that team is just.
If they restructure his deal, I can see him staying beyond 2024. But otherwise, if that's the contract that he's still going to be on,
yeah,
there's no way the Rams keep him, especially knowing the position they're in right now. They're going to need to somehow get first-round picks, which at this point in Stafford's career, you're not going to get a first-round pick anyways. But they're going to have to do something to at least try to accumulate some picks where, let's just say you trade Matthew Stafford and you end up getting 3 seconds and maybe like a fifth-round pick for him or something. Maybe you can package a couple of those second-round picks up and get a first-round pick. Like, they're going to have to do something to get some first-round picks.
And then that makes you think, okay, what's next for Cooper Kupp if they are going into rebuild?
That's the thing. I think that's the one that they care about the most at this point. I think their main goal is figuring out how they can keep Cooper Kupp and get him extended. Because they're not going to be able to do that if they're going to keep Stafford on $25 to $30 million a year for the next 3 years after next year.
But if you're rebuilding and you're going to have to go through all these changes, what's the point of keeping an older Cup around? Like, why not just let him go and get draft picks and continue the rebuild?
Because essentially, if you sign him to an extension and then you still end up trading him, let's just say 2 years later, he might have 3 years left on that deal, and you'll be able to bring back a much bigger trade package as opposed to just letting him go now.
No, I mean trade him. But you're saying that he wouldn't command enough right now, being for a trade.
Because I believe this year is his final year until he hits free agency. So if the Rams would try to trade him now,
then I figured they'll just let him go at that.
That's why I think if the Rams are going to try to keep him, you try to sign him to like a 5-year extension.
Just do a sign and trade.
And if things don't work out, like in a year or two, and the Rams are still kind of stuck in neutral, you could trade him with 3 years left on his contract, similar to what the Vikings did with Stephon Diggs when they gave Stephon Diggs that extension, and then 2 years later they traded him to Buffalo. They ended up getting a first-round pick in that trade and ended up drafting Justin Jefferson. So if you sign Cooper Kupp, and in 2 years, if you're still in the position you're in right now, you can trade him with 3 years left on his deal, and you're going to get a lot more in that trade as opposed to getting rid of him for nothing or just getting rid of him right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of their top priority, because even if they have to bring in another quarterback, whether it's drafting a quarterback or whether it's going to get a quarterback in free agency, that quarterback's going to want at least a legitimate target to throw to. And Cooper Kupp would be that legitimate target to throw to at least for a year or two until you kind of get to the position like, what are we going to do after Stafford leaves, or what are we going to do right now? And I think that's kind of the position the Rams are in, where it's like, we know we're going to be rebuilding the next couple of years, but we need to try to keep some of our pieces here to either help us now or help us later by trading you for more assets.
Yeah, going to be interesting. Did you guys watch the Tommy Fury and Jake Paul fight?
I don't condone violence.
Yes, you do. Stop it.
I don't condone violence. I haven't watched a fight in almost a decade. This last time I watched a fight was when Anderson Silva and John Bones Jones are fighting.
Son of a. Okay, that has been a while.
That was like 2015, 2016.
I watched them about all. I didn't see the fight yesterday.
I don't know if I trust a man that doesn't like to watch boxing or MMA. I have a hard time trusting those kinds of people.
I was at a wrestler show, and then we left the wrestler show. We were looking and finding information out about it, but Jake Paul got his first loss. Tommy Fury won by split decision. From what I've seen, a lot of people don't even think it should have been a split decision. Did you see any of it, Jay?
I saw towards the tail end. He knocked him down. He got one good one in there on him. But if you look at the scorecard in terms of punches thrown, landed, jabs, power punches, all that, Fury, he had him on the cards. So it should have been really more of a unanimous. I thought it should have been unanimous of Fury, but it was nice to see Jake Paul put him on his ass, though.
Why was that nice? I wanted to see Jake Paul get laid out. I didn't want to see Jake Paul lay Fury.
I don't know. I you know what? Even though I agree with you, sometimes I find myself rooting for the underdog. I don't know. I can't help it. I guess I like to see the underdog win it. And then I think it's kind of funny that Tyson Fury is at the top of his game, and here's his little brother. And if his brother gets his ass whooped, and is he really a quote unquote Fury, or maybe he was a stepchild that they just brought in and called him Fury? I don't know.
I mean, everyone likes a good underdog story, Jay.
Everybody does, man. Who doesn't like a good underdog story, right? Now, the interesting thing is who's going to fight Jake Paul next?
Anderson Silva.
I know he was wanting to fight. Well, he already fought him once, but that could be another one. Nate Diaz's name has been mentioned.
Oh, Jay, can I come back to Cooper Kupp for a second?
If you would like.
Because I just looked up his contract because I was curious. Cooper Kupp has already been assigned to an extension. He signed a 3-year, $80 million extension at the end of the 2021 NFL season which locks him up in Los Angeles through 2026. He's set to make $15 million this up, $12.5 million in 2025, and then just under $15 million in 2026. That's not counting obviously his signing bonus and roster bonuses, but if you put all that together, if the Rams get rid of him in 2023, it's a $27 million cap hit. If they get rid of him in 2024, it's a $26 million cap hit. But if they wait till 2025, it goes down to a $6 million cap hit. So like I said, you have him locked up for at least 2 more years because you know they're not going to take on a $30 million cap hit. So you can at least get what you can get out of him at this point now, and then you can trade him with 2 years left on his deal and only take the $6 million cap hit and then get potentially a bigger package for him.
Yeah.
And I think that's key for the Rams too, because before Matthew Stafford,
cap hits too, man. Like they cannot. Those cap hits are horrible, man. If they were to get rid of them, they'd have to do a trade. There's no way they could just cut them.
Yeah, and if you look at Cooper Kupp though, up until Matthew Stafford got to Los Angeles, Cooper Kupp was not a top 10 receiver. He was a reliable receiver, but he wasn't top 10 until Matthew Stafford got there. So now the question is, the Cooper Kupp that everyone saw in 2021 with Matthew Stafford, is that the Cooper Kupp you're going to get going forward? Or are you going to have the Cooper Kupp that was pre-Matthew Stafford?
Well, that's true.
Because if Matthew Stafford leaves after the 2023 season, no one knows the Cooper Kupp that you're going to see in 2024. And that essentially is what I think could affect that trade too, because if he goes back to the pre-Matthew Stafford Cooper Kupp, you're not looking at maybe a number 1 receiver anymore. You're looking at a number 2 because that's what he was before Matthew Stafford got there. He was the number 2 receiver to Robert Woods. He was the number 2 receiver to whoever was in Los Angeles before Matthew Stafford got there.
Right. Well, either way, it looks like the Rams are going to have a lot to think about over the course of the next few years in terms of what's the direction of that franchise is going to grow in. I mean, and they still got I guess their running back is Cam Akers and that other kid. I mean, they got issues at the running game too. I don't like any of their running game. Cam Akers all right, but
if he can stay healthy,
that's the problem with Cam Akers. Can he stay healthy? I mean, he got off to an extremely slow start last season, and then of course, towards the end of the season, he kind of came on a little bit. Especially if you follow him in the fantasy world, it was horrible. It was like it was torturous.
The Rams can trade Matthew Stafford to Dallas for Dak Prescott.
God.
You wouldn't do that?
That does not excite me one bit at all.
I do that. I do that
trade too, because at least Stafford knows how to win a playoff game.
Trade a heartbeat.
At least Stafford knows how to win a playoff game.
You trying to look at him with a playoff game. I mean, I get it. If you want to do it on a short term, I guess. But,
especially if Stafford's healthy,
and he's got an offensive line that can keep him upright.
Well, that's
healthy point. Matt Stafford. I'd take a healthy Matt Stafford over Dak Prescott.
God, you got Matt Ryan and Ellinger. Of course you would.
But I mean, you're giving Matthew Stafford CeeDee Lamb. You're giving Matthew Stafford Dalton Schultz. You're giving
honestly,
Matthew Stafford.
If you brought Matt Stafford, it wouldn't crush me. It's not like I'm going to go, oh my God, because at the same time,
he's a Texas guy, Jay. You got to love it.
We haven't done anything with Dak either. So for me, it's like, you know what? At this point, I'm almost willing to say, you know what? You're right. Let's go a different direction and see what happens. So
he's a Texas guy too. You got to love it.
Yeah, you're right. He is. He's a Texas product, so you're right. You're right.
Hey, and he's won a Super Bowl.
That he has.
He's won a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl in no running game either, and he goes to Dallas.
He actually did a really good job in the Super Bowl. Like he was, I would put him one step above game manager. He wasn't a game manager. He actually contributed. So he did well. He did a good job.
And he won a Super Bowl with no running game. He's never, in his 13 going on 14 years in the NFL, he's never had a running game ever. You bring him to Dallas, he will actually have a running game that he's never had before, and he will have the best offensive line he's ever played behind.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, I do not believe for 1 minute that Dak Prescott's going to be there for another 10 years. I
I believe Dak Prescott will be their quarterback until Jerry Jones dies.
He's kind of old, so.
I mean, that could be 10 years ago.
Hell, man. I mean, you never know. There might be one of them that's got like a cloning machine. He can clone.
He's gonna live to 150 just to torture Jay.
Yeah, I mean, Dak is. Oh, jeez, man.
Call Dak for the next 20 years.
Oh, jeez. No, 20 years would be horrible. Y'all need to be quiet with that mess. No, but yeah.
The Cowboys have a better chance to win a playoff game if Troy Aikman comes back than sticking with Dak Prescott for the next decade.
Yeah, unfortunately, with Dak Prescott, I know Steven thinks he can win a Super Bowl with him, but I'm not one to believe that, and I haven't been one to believe that for a hot minute. I'd give anything to have Tony Romo back at this point.
Yeah, Tony Romo gets a bad rap too.
I'd give anything to have Romo back. Tony was there for a hot minute too. I would say he's probably about a good 10 years. Tony was there.
I think he was there for he had to be 10 or 12 years. Yeah,
it was probably a good 10, give or take a year or two, whatever. But I would give anybody. I mean, Tony can move the offense. He didn't commit too many turnovers, so I mean, I'd bring back Tony if I thought he could still play.
I think Tony could still play. Honestly,
I mean, he keeps himself in pretty good shape. Even as a commentator, he looks like he's in pretty good shape. So, speaking of shape, though, man, going back real quick to Jake Paul, so he came off of a ranked fight, or going to be not with a ranked fighter now. Does he get the? Do you think that's going to be the next match for him? Is the rematch? Because at this point, no matter what he does, if Jake Paul wants to be taken seriously as a fighter, he can't go back to the novelty acts. He's going to have to actually take on, ranked fighters and fight them if we want to take him seriously, right?
Yeah, but money wise though, for him to get another big a fight that's going to make him big money, I think it's going to be another one of the novelty fights. There ain't going to be no big name boxer that's going to fight him because they're taking all the risk. I mean, if you look at that fight yesterday, Tommy Fury was the one that took all the risk because if he loses that fight, his boxing career is basically over because you just got beat by a guy that everybody says never fought a boxer. So I mean, he won, which was good for him. But I mean, he was, he was taking all the risk. He wasn't taking no. Jake Paul wasn't taking no risk. Yeah, you lose. Yeah, it hurts you a little bit, but you got a name where you can still find. He'll find like Nate Diaz, or he'll find somebody to fight him where he can still make some money. So
I just thought it was kind of crazy how amped up. Yeah, I thought it was crazy how amped up Tommy Fury got with the win. I'm like, bro, you beat a YouTuber.
Well, because it's
why are you
so amped up, Jays? Because this fight's been building for like 4 years. They've been trying to get this fight.
I know, but I'm just like, bro, you act like you won the championship.
And Jake Paul was talking a lot of shit. Like I don't know if they end up doing it, but he wanted to go double or nothing on the purse and stuff. Just a couple days before the fight and stuff, he was talking all kinds of crap. Jake Paul was. Yeah,
and that, that's the thing, man. It's one thing to talk a lot of crap, but if you don't back it up, you just make yourself look terrible. And again, in the YouTube world, all publicity is good publicity, right? Negative or good. I mean, it all keeps your name out there circulating. So.
And I also heard they might try to fight KSI again. I think that's the guy. I think that's the name, KSI.
Yeah, that sounds like a rapper. I don't even know who he is, but it sounds like a rapper.
I think he fought him. I think it was one of his first fights. But they're talking about maybe that rematch. I heard somebody say that or saw that report yesterday. But
wow. I'm sorry, man. That's just where boxing is right now. We're all about novelties, and the sport, to me, just becomes more and more of a joke the more we do this to it. I mean, it's freaking terrible.
Damien says he can see Jake Paul fight in UFC. I hope not. Well, let me rephrase that. If he wants to fight in the UFC, that's one. Okay, I don't have a big problem with that, but it's how are they going to do it? If they're going to do the same bullshit that they done with the CM Punk and just bring him straight up to the UFC into a fight so he can get his ass kicked, I don't want to see that. Now, if you're going to if he's going to train MMA, have some fights outside the UFC to kind of show what he can do, and then if he looks like he could do it, then do it. Then I wouldn't have a big problem with it. But just to bring him up into the UFC, kind of like they did with CM Punk, to me, that's a way that you can start bringing your sport down a little bit, because people are going to start taking it less serious when you're just having these guys that have no experience and you're just bring them in right to the top show.
And I think if they do that, it's more of a publicity thing too, more so than they're bringing him up for the skill value.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one question. I want to kind of go back real quick to the combine real quick. Stroud, Levis.
KSI is a YouTuber, I guess.
They're all going to throw. KSI. He's a YouTuber. Okay. If these guys throw, let's just take Stroud, for example. A lot of people are torn between Stroud, Bryce Young, who goes number one, what have you. Stroud goes out there and just puts on the show of a lifetime at the combine. Does it edge him over Bryce Young? And could that hurt Bryce Young having not thrown?
I don't think it does, because unless something has changed in the last month, Houston's been pretty much sold on Bryce Young since they've been pretty much in position to get the number one pick. So even if CJ Stroud goes and blows the combine away, or even if Will Levis goes out and just blows the combine away, it would have to take a catastrophic meltdown for Bryce Young in the pro day, or Bryce Young would have to get hurt from now until he has his pro day workouts for Houston not to take Bryce Young.
Unless the Colts trade with the Bears, because I know they love Levis, and that's my fear, that they might trade up number one.
I mean, since the Bears are leaning towards moving out of that one spot, which I think we all know that's what's going to happen.
Going to happen within the next couple of days.
Up there, because to Gonzo's point, and I believe that if Houston is such a big Bryce Young guy, why would they let somebody leapfrog them just to take their coveted possession? Or do you think
because in an instance like what happened today, that's been reported now that there are 8 to 10 teams that have called the Bears about their number one pick. And the Bears are strongly considering trading it to one of these 8 to 10 teams. If you're a team like Houston and you've pretty much zeroed your sights in on Bryce Young for as long as you've wanted Bryce Young, there's a team like the Colts that need a quarterback. There's a team like Carolina that needs a quarterback. There's a bunch of other teams in this draft that need a quarterback. You cannot risk letting the Bears trade with a team like the Colts, and then all of a sudden the Colts take Bryce Young. You cannot risk the Bears trading with a team like Carolina, and then all of a sudden the Carolina Panthers take Bryce Young before you can pick at number 2. If Houston wants Bryce Young bad enough, they have to be the ones to trade with Chicago to guarantee themselves the number one pick, to guarantee themselves that they get Bryce Young. Yeah, because even if they pick at number 2, there's no guarantee they get Bryce Young.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? I mean,
if Houston don't make a trade up to number 1, what that tells me is they're looking at Stroud and Young about the same. That they're not really favoring one over the other.
Yeah.
Which is what I think. Having that combine, though, could possibly help Stroud to leapfrog if he has a great showing at the combine.
If the Colts move to number 1, I think they're going to take either Young or Levis. I would rather. I'm a little more sold on Stroud than I am Young, but I think the Colts it's either going to be Young or Levis, and I hope they don't move up number 1 to get Levis.
Man, your dad says Levis or Richardson.
Well, and I've heard the Richardson name a lot here.
Honestly, yeah. Whoever drafts Anthony Richardson is getting the next Mitch Trubisky. Richardson is not ready.
Right.
His numbers at Florida were not that great, and if you remember back to this season, Richardson got benched for 2 games because of how poorly he played, and the guy that replaced Richardson played better than what Richardson played. So I don't understand what teams are seeing in Richardson at this point. Right. And if I'm Richardson, I go back to school another year to prove that last season was not the type of quarterback I am.
Oh, damn. And then what if the Raiders slingshot up and try to grab Stroud? I know that I've seen links to them to Stroud at number 1.
Yeah,
I mean, hey, if the Raiders wanted to do that, that would have been the perfect trade scenario for Derek Carr. You trade Derek Carr to a team like the Colts. So let's just say the Colts trade with the Bears to go number 1. And if the Raiders really want CJ Stroud, then the Raiders could be like, well, we know you want a quarterback, so Derek Carr and we'll take CJ Stroud.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Carr could do good things out there in Indy, Tony. Tony says he likes Carr. I mean, honestly, I think he would be a breath of fresh air for that team. And how old is Carr? He's still in his early 30s, ain't he? He's not that. He's not that old.
31.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. So he's very much in his prime.
It'll be interesting. We'll see.
I love how let me show you how Tony let me show you when Tony's like, fuck this. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Which is Chris. Hey, that's Chris's basically way of saying like crap. It's gonna be another 6. Hey, don't worry. As a Cowboys fan, I know how to read body language. That's how I am most of the time.
AP said Panthers or Falcons getting Lamar.
Oh wow, yeah.
Damon said he sees the Raiders getting Lamar.
Did the Raiders go after Lamar? I definitely can see the Falcons. I could definitely see the Falcons pulling that trigger, though. I can see the Falcons do it. If they really want to give him that full 250 or 280 contract.
No, I think there's one team that Lamar Jackson goes to. I think he ends up in New Orleans.
Oh, you got to go on to the Saints.
Yep.
Pray tell.
I mean, you can't keep signing Jameis Winston to 1-year contracts. You're not going to go Andy Dalton long term. And Taysom Hill's your other option, and he's proven that he can play some quarterback, but he's better suited as a gadget player. You still have guys like Alvin Kamara as long as he doesn't get suspended for an extended amount of time. You still have Michael Thomas. You still have that other wide receiver who emerged the last couple of years. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but you have Chris Olave, who they drafted last year. They have plenty of offensive talent around him, and they just need that quarterback now to replace Drew Brees. Granted, Lamar Jackson is far from a Drew Brees, and he's a completely different quarterback, but you're still putting him in a system that has a top 10 defense. You're still putting him in a system that has plenty of offensive weapons around him that can maximize his talent.
Tony says Redskin, or he says, well, he corrected it. Commanders would be a good fit. Yeah, I guess if you want RG3 2.0, and hopefully he stays healthy. I mean, I'm just saying. Let me ask you this: so if he goes to the Saints, where do you guys see happening with what's his face over there at the Saints? Why am I drawing a blank on him? You just said him, Dustin.
Jameis
Kamara?
Winston.
Or Jameis
Winston. I don't know why my brain went blank, but what do you think happens to Winston if they were to bring over Kamara? And even if they don't bring over Lamar, what do you think happens to Winston? Like, what do you see in his future?
I could see Winston ending up in Carolina. I could see him going to Carolina and working with Frank Wright, because historically, Frank Wright has worked better with younger quarterbacks than he has with veteran quarterbacks, and Jameis Winston's 28 going on 29, so it's not like he's a young quarterback, but he's still younger than a lot of the quarterbacks that Frank Wright worked with back when he was in Indy. That's one option there, and the other option I could see is Atlanta, just because Marcus Mariota was only signed to a 1-year deal last year, and he ended up getting benched with 3 games left in the year for Desmond Ridder. I don't know if Desmond Ritter's their plan going forward for next year. I don't know what their plan really is with him because he really didn't show much in the 3 games that he played. So maybe Jameis Winston goes to Atlanta for a couple of years and they use him as that bridge guy, or maybe he ends up playing there 4 or 5 years because he actually shows that he can play. Because after he had that LASIK eye surgery that he had, and after he went to New Orleans, the guy, I think he started 11 games the last couple of years because he was battling with injuries, but he was 7-4 as a starter in New Orleans, and he had 20 touchdowns and 7 interceptions.
Right.
The guy wasn't playing bad with the Saints. It's just that he couldn't stay healthy.
Well, that's the thing, though, too. I going back to Atlanta, if they were bringing in Winston, that would certainly be the more cap-friendly option versus Lamar, which would give them more money to put weapons around Winston if they were sold on him. Which, I mean, if you look at their wide receiving core outside of Pitts, they could definitely use.
That's the issue that I have is Jameis Winston going to want to go somewhere that doesn't have a wide receiver because Calvin Ridley got traded to Jacksonville last year. Kyle Pitts is the tight end who's your leading receiver. Cordero Patterson was a wide receiver. He's now your running back. And then you have that Zacchaeus, or however you pronounce his name, Zacchaeus, was your number 2 receiver. And you had a rookie in Drake London that was your number 1. Versus if you go to Carolina.
Unless Winston could turn Kyle Pitts into the next Kelsey connection that he had with Mahomes, then if those two could click on that level, that could be a viable thing. Then you just compliment wide receiver and you'd be straight.
Yeah, that definitely could be. But now you're looking at the situation where Kyle Pitts is going on year 3, and if you bring Jameis Winston in, you have to theoretically sign Jameis Winston for 3 years. You have to, because Kyle Pitts will be in year 3 this year, year 4 next year, and then they're going to pick up his 5th-year option on his rookie deal. So if you want Jameis Winston to try to form that Travis Kelce connection, you have to sign Jameis Winston for 3 years in Atlanta. And if he goes out in year 1 and struggles mightily, you're kind of stuck with him another 2 years.
But you're not stuck with him so far that it's forever. It's only a 3
No, but that's still
unless you give him like a 3 year with the 3-year option, then you got the option on that 3rd year.
That's kind of why I think he's a better fit in Carolina, because in Carolina, I have a feeling that Carolina is going to draft a quarterback this year, even though they did draft the guy out of Ole Miss Matt Corral last year, but with Corral's injury, we never got a chance to see him last year. I have a feeling that Carolina is going to draft another quarterback this year, and that's kind of why I think Jameis Winston makes more sense there, because you can sign him to a 1-year deal in Carolina as that bridge quarterback to let the rookie kind of develop. And then after that, you can either let Winston walk or maybe bring him back for another year, and you can kind of play it by the waiting game versus a team like Atlanta. If they want a quarterback, they're going to sign him for 3 years at least minimum, just because they're not going to want to keep going through this quarterback carousel anymore.
Yeah. Carolina's definitely been through a carousel at quarterback. There's no doubt about that, man. Damn. They haven't been able to find anything since Cam left them. They just been here, there, and everywhere.
Oh, not necessarily.
No, really? Because who'd they have?
You got to remember who the head coach was.
Matt
Rule was the head coach.
Oh, yeah.
Carolina did have something, I believe, in Sam Darnold. Because if you look at when Sam Darnold first got to Carolina, he was 6-3 as a starter his first 9 games until Carolina ended up losing the last 8 games of the season. And then this year, too, Baker Mayfield had moments where he played well, but then he had moments where he didn't play well. But a lot of that had to do with Matt Rule as the head coach. Matt Rule.
They really didn't have a true developmental system to help their quarterbacks out.
Yeah. That's why I can't really say they haven't had much at quarterback since Cam Newton, because they had 2 first-round draft picks. Both were taken in the top 3 picks. And Sam Darnold especially.
I thought the Geno Smith rule. I mean, look how long he bounced around before he finally made it over to Seattle, where he got some help. And then, of course, then he came on the scene. So to say that Darnold can't do it, it's a stretch.
It's a stretch, but here's the problem now that I have with Sam Darnold. Coach that he had his first 4 years was Adam Gase. Coach that he had after Adam Gase was Matt Rule. I think at this point, Sam Darnold's career is so screwed because of who he had as a head coach. He's had two of the worst head coaches known to man, and they've pretty much ruined any chance that he has of signing a long-term deal with anybody because his play's been so terrible.
I think if he wants to keep playing, he's going to end up in the XFL or the USFL.
Yeah, he's going to end up as a backup or in the XFL because of the way that Adam Gase and Matt Rule have ruined his career. There's no way anybody's going to give him a long-term deal anymore. And it's not his fault. I'm not going to – some of his decisions I'm going to blame on him, but at the same time, it's not his fault that the two head coaches he had were completely useless and incompetent.
Well, you're not getting.
Right,
I disagree with the Matt Rule side of life in terms of incompetency at the NFL level. I mean, that was a little bit better than Urban Meyer effect, but not much.
Do you realize that Matt Rule is the highest paid coach in the United States this year?
Is he really? Oh, because of his NFL money and college money?
He's getting $19 million this year. $11 million from Nebraska and $8 million from Carolina.
Yeah.
And Carolina owes him that $8 million for another 5 years.
Wow.
So he's in the highest.
$8 million spread over 5?
No, $8 million a year for the next 5 years they owe Matt Rule.
They owe him $40 million, huh?
Yep. Plus the money that he's getting from Nebraska, he's going to be making $20 million a year.
Matt be out there in Nebraska, man, just strutting his stuff, man.
Making it rain.
You sign Matt Rule to a 7-year contract, and you get rid of him after 2 years.
It's the American way, man.
I was about as the Raiders signed Gruden to that 10-year deal.
Hey, it's the American way. We overpay for everything. Didn't you know that? What has anything in America not been about overpaying?
That's true.
That's true.
We overpay for every damn thing we got, man. Shit.
Let's get to final thoughts, gentlemen.
Stag, you're up first. I got to think about that one for a minute.
Well, I don't have final thoughts. I just have a stat of the day.
Oh, that works.
It revolves around baseball and one of the greatest hitters of all time, Tony Gwynn. If Tony Gwynn would have gone for his last 1,289 plate appearances, so basically if he would have gone for basically 2+ years, he would have still been a 300 career hitter for his career.
You're talking about Tony Gwynn was a great hitter, man. Thought about him, man. Jeez.
Just put that into perspective, though, going basically 2 straight years without a hit.
Yeah.
More than 2 years without a hit because you usually get about 500 plate appearances a year, not counting walks. So, yeah, 1,200 over almost 1,300 plate appearances. You're going on basically 3 years without a hit, and you would still be a 300 hitter.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I would say that I think the stat in my life that I've seen that will never be broken ever, I don't care who comes, who goes, how you change the game, is Nolan Ryan's 235 pitches. If there's ever a pitcher out there that can eclipse 236, I want to meet this guy.
Hey, you might be meeting him in the next 10 years.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up right now for you.
Oh, that's I feel a wager coming on.
So the kid's name is Brody Garrigan, Gerrigan.
Brody Garrigan.
He's a 10-year-old out of Macon, Georgia. He pitches on the 10-year-old travel team in Macon, Georgia. He threw 8 innings this past weekend and threw 218 pitches. At 10 years old.
Okay. Number one, Gonzo is 218 greater than 200.
I didn't say greater. I said
I'm just asking a question. Number one. Number two, 10 years old. Really? 10?
He's going to get
stronger. Get all of our factual data from.
He's going to get stronger.
And where his joints and everything are super flexible and pliable. Really?
He's going to get stronger. The kid's 5'9", 150 pounds. He's not a small child.
Gonzo, don't we have some kind of screening process of people that we bring on here? Don't we screen? When do we stop screening?
That's Frankie's job.
Look, Brody, Garrigan, wherever you are, wherever you may be, you'll never break that record.
I hope he throws 250 pitches in his next start, and I'm going to screenshot that shit for you.
Boy, we'll never see the light of day of that pitch count. I just want to say, when did Dustin become a 1-up? I've never heard Dustin 1-up anybody. This is the first time Dustin has 1-upped.
You got a problem with that?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But anyway,
Don't challenge me because I will find
stuff. I don't like it.
Don't challenge me because I will find stuff.
I expect an apology next week. Hey, catch us, man, later on. Don't forget Unscripted. Unscripted on Twitter. It's Unscripted Guys, all one word. Check us out there. And Unscripted Sports, all one word on TikTok. Check us out. Gonzo, what a hell of a good show. Dustin, F yourself.
You got to buy me dinner first.
That's fine. Hell, man, the dollar menu's up in 24/7. Let's go. I love the dollar menu. I'm telling you right now, man, I could live and die by the dollar menu.
A lot of people can.
Well, my final thoughts are go check out the ASAP Network app. You can find it on at the Google Play Store, ASAP Network, Roku, and Amazon. So if you have a Fire Stick, go to your apps, look up ASAP Network. You can find it on there. All of our shows on the ASAP Network are going on to the new mobile TV app. So go check it out. Also hit that subscribe button on YouTube at the All Sports All Plays Network. I'll be live here in a few minutes with Easy Money, a sports betting show. Then we have a GWR later this evening, and then GSR Gonzo Sports Room tonight at 11.
Oh, dear.
You got anything else, Jay?
No.
All right. you were sitting there like you had something.
Oh, no. I was just in anticipation of your awesomeness.
What else? I think that's about it. Oh, if you missed our pro wrestling yesterday, live pro wrestling, go check it out on YouTube at Gonzo Sports Room or at the All Sports All Plays Network. It was a great show yesterday. Got 3 interviews this week plus a wrestling show this weekend. So got a busy week wrestling wise. But we'll see you guys tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern with another episode of the ASAP Afternoon Blitz. Hope everybody has a great Monday.